Hello again. So today I'm going to be putting a new prop shaft in this 2017 Polaris Ranger 570 full size. Reason for replacement on this one is the splines. The main reason is the splines, the inboard splines on this yoke are greatly worn out where it slips onto the spline shaft coming out of the transmission that drives the prop shaft. There's a lot of wobble up and down on this yoke, and I'll show it to you when we get to the old one. And that's not because it's not getting greased. I do grease these religiously when we do oil changes. The other reason is the U-joint crosses, and I don't know if you can see that on these, but Polaris, and I don't know if this is something that I'm just not seeing or what, but I don't see any seal on the cups of the U-joint crosses that Polaris is using on these, unless it's an inboard seal. I don't know, but it seems like the longevity of the U-joints on Polaris prop shafts historically is really not that good. This Ranger here has got about 700 hours on it, and the drive, you can hear it when you're moving slowly. You can hear the U-joints going cling, 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 cling. I mean, you can hear it audibly. And I noticed the yoke in the back when I was replacing the drive clutch in it, that the yoke was very sloppy. So basically, it only leaves you the option of replacing the prop shaft first to try to take up, some of that slop, hoping that most of the wear is on the yoke. Which the ones I've done so far, that has taken care of most of the problems, so that's what we're going to go with. So I'm going to take you through this step by step. There's a way that Polaris wants you to do it, and there's the way that I do it. So I'll show you both ways basically, and maybe I'll help you get this prop shaft out quite a bit quicker. The one thing I will say about this model is they are fairly easy to work on, very simple machines, and I like. Compared to some of them, I mean, the 900s and the bigger ones, I mean, this is a peach to work on in comparison. So I'll take you through this. So I did a little work here, getting ready to tear out this prop shaft. I took off the right rear wheel for a little bit better access to this clutch cover. You're going to need to take off that clutch cover. There's some 8mm headed screws. Take that off. And then you can see our prop shaft here. I just wanted you guys to be able to see the slop that's in this. I don't know how well you can see that. I mean, you can hear that audibly when you're driving down the road slowly. You'll hear that. And the other reason is up here in the front. Take a look at the gap in the upper cup of that prop shaft U-joint. I'll rattle it here for you. Sorry about the light. Yeah, look at that. And I think this machine, I told you wrong on the hours before, it's got about 900 hours, but it's been doing this for about 300 hours. That's just awful. But so the next step, after you get this thing blocked up, put a good ATV jack under the front, or else block it up very well. Do the same thing in the rear. You're going to need to take up the front right wheel and the left rear wheel. You're going to need to take off the center cover inside here so you can get access to that prop shaft, and you're going to also need to clean out all this trash because that prop shaft is going to go rearward and then out. So after you've done that, go ahead and get a punch, or if you're lucky enough to have an air hammer, and drive out that roll pin right there. Drive it that direction. Once you get it driven out, you can rotate the drive shaft and pull the rest of it out of there with a vice grip or whatever. So once that's off, and don't forget to spray this area with penetrating oil so it'll slide off those splines easier. The Polaris way to do this is they tell you to take the roll pin out, pull that back, and then take the drive clutch off and remove it out the rear. So we're not going to So I have soaked that area with penetrating oil, and that yoke is still pretty tough to come off. So what I'm going to do is I've got a pry bar here, pretty long one. You don't have to buy a fancy one. You don't even have to have a pry bar. Maybe a long wrecking bar or something would work. But I'm going to try to pry between the yoke and the front diff case to see if I can get that to move backwards. This one's pretty tough. I don't want to get too aggressive with this because you can break that front diff case. So I think I'm going to try to do is come in from the front with my pry bar and put it on that cross and whack this with the hammer basically rearward. See if I can get it to start going back. I got to be careful. I don't want to damage that CB boot there either. It's going. So this thing's been coming off pretty tough. I've really had to beat on it. I've already whacked on it a couple times. Let's see if we can get that. There we go. We're all the way off now. You can see there, we're all the way off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that towards me and then slide that yoke all the way forward up beside the diff. See if I can do that real quick. Well, I got the camera going. So pull over the side. I'm going to slide it forward. I might have to run up here and help it again. Yep. But really hard to do one-handed too. There we go. You can't see anything there because I'm blocking all the view. There we go. You can see it slid up beside the front diff there. And that's pretty well going to pull that yoke off the rear. We'll go back there and check. There we are. Yoke is off there. So now I'm going to pull it rearward. About as far as I can here. You can see where that's at. Okay, so here's my prop shaft. Pulled quite a ways back. Now I'm going to move it over to the right. And like I said, I'm going to probably have to get my pry bar to lift up on that plastic a little. That way I can have two hands. Okay. There we go. So then all I have to do is run up here. And there's our prop shaft. Out we come. Done deal. So that was a lot easier than taking the clutch off, like Polaris tells you to do. And if you don't have the removal tool, it saves you from having to buy a $40, $50 tool and then going through putting it back on. So I guess that's all. I mean, we're just going to go ahead and replace this. If you do just need U-joints, you can go ahead and put I think a P or a Precision P338 U-joint you can get from Napa or any place will fit that. But if your splines on your yoke are shot, you're going to have to buy a new prop shaft. One thing I've noticed on these is Polaris does not. The older ones, they used to have an O-ring inside there to seal out the dirt and grime and hold the grease in, and these Polaris prop shafts do not. So they are open to the elements all the time, water, mud, dirt, and they wear out prematurely. So Going back together is just a reversal of what we just did. The only thing I would say is that when you go back together, go ahead and use a 5/16 bolt in place of that roll pin, wherever I left that, in place of the roll pin. I forget what length it is, but just use that and a nut. And that will be much easier to remove the next time you need to do any service on the prop shaft. That'll just help you out there. So just reverse what you did, going back together, put some anti-seize on the splines of each end. That'll help keep it a little more free for the next time. So thanks for watching.